So those who are joining us on Zoom will be joining us. And you're all very welcome. Come on in and say hello to Mary and Gary.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Oh,
So
the participant count is hopping up. 12, 13, 14. All right.
People actually want to hear what you have to say, Gary.
Yeah, I was hoping I'd have at least 12.
you maybe we'll double your numbers. Let's see what happens here.
Woohoo! Almost.
Okay, so we're at 20.
Yeah.
25.
There we go.
Come
We
on,
doubled,
guys.
double the goal.
I love it.
Go on. It's going to
That's
keep
awesome.
on going. Gary,
I have
do you
a feeling
sing?
Gary's not going to have any trouble.
We know Gary sings, Mary. Do you remember
Yes,
Future
we do.
last year?
No, I don't sing. I do the Irish jig.
You do the Irish jig, and you do it well. Maybe not as excited as JB Hayes was doing it, but you definitely did.
Well, Gary was on stage, so Gary has a certificate to say he's a qualified Irish dancer.
That's
right. I have the certificate. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that and $2 will buy you $2 worth of stuff.
Yeah. I absolutely loved my time there with you, Ronan. I so want to come back, and I'll try not to get myself in trouble with the Irish authorities this time from, climbing the wall at the Cliffs of Moher. They get really testy over that, by the way. Yeah.
And they're
making
pretty
a barley angel in the
absolutely.
The barley angel in the Guinness factory.
And that big firearm you have that you tried to get through customs, that sort of didn't go down through that.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me bring my AR-15 in.
No, imagine that. Y'all, I was supposed to be in Ireland right now. I can't tell you how sad I am, Ronan. Oh.
We're all sad, but we're going to have the greatest Irish hoolie once we can all meet up again.
I love it.
Irish hoolie. We'll invite everybody and we'll have a bit of crack.
Sounds great.
Have a bit of crack, right?
Bit of crack, absolutely. Well, you're all very welcome to this session from the think tank. I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Mary Fisk-Taylor and the amazing Gary Box to talk all things marketing. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye for now.
Thanks, Ronan. Thank you. My gosh, and thank you, Gary, for here. Cheers to us. It's noon? One for us. One for me. Noon. Noon for Gary, right? Gary, noon there.
Yes. Yep. We're noon here in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were just discussing our breakfast of champions, and Gary's got his Mountain Dew and pizza, and I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper. So we when we really spent more time together in Ireland a couple years ago, we both were missing our soft drinks. That was the only thing we missed in Ireland that they didn't have enough of was Mountain Dew and Diet Dr. Pepper. Everything else they had plenty of. So how are you doing there in Oklahoma? I guess you guys are up and running. You're not staying in place right now. Things are looking a little better for you guys there.
Yeah, we're doing well. We're a little bit more on the rural side, I guess. Not the high population areas. So it's not as bad in those rural areas. If you're in New York City, you're in a completely different situation and need to react entirely different than what you are in a town of 20,000 in the middle of Oklahoma. So we're doing okay. So we reopened last week, last Tuesday. And so we're in our second week open, and everything is starting to roll again, thankfully. And, it's still not quite up to full speed, but it's going okay. So
I like it. So, Gary, you're predominantly high school senior portraits. I know you photograph other things, but high school seniors is the majority of what you do.
Yeah, that's my largest category is high school seniors. I do pretty much all varieties of portrait. I don't typically do weddings unless it's an amazing client that wants to pay me an insane amount of money.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I do high school seniors, I do families, I do children, I do newborns, I do commercial headshots, I do modeling work, boudoir, pretty much all variety of portrait. So, but high school seniors is definitely my largest category and what I'm the most known for. I kind of hate to get pigeonholed as just a senior photographer, though. I do have other skills. So
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, well, you do, and we'll talk about some of this actually. But I think it's probably in the industry you've been pigeonholed, but not in your own community. I'm sure in your own community, they think Gary Box, oh, if I need portraits or I need pictures, go to Gary Box, right? Like yes, you're known for seniors, but I think that's more us photographers think that. I bet you don't have that same reputation in your own community, your own town. You know what I mean? Like,
well, not as strong. I mean,
yeah.
I think that I'm one of the first names thought of for senior portraits around here. And it does frustrate me, at times that it's like, I'm not necessarily the first, name that they think of for newborns or something like that, because, there are people that specialize in newborns. And so, they might edge out, as the first name people think of over me. And, and that's okay. I don't do a ton of newborns. The nice thing about high school seniors is they don't pee on me. Never.
Well, let's hope not.
30 years, I've never had a high school senior pee on me. So
there we go.
So that's kind of the
silver lining. I love it. I love it. So Gary, something I know about you is you're very incredibly fiscally responsible. You are, even though I think your work's beautiful and you're very creative, and people probably think of you as being this amazingly creative, and you are technical and all those things, but you're also very much a business guy. Like, you are one of the very early ones I remember talking about business years and years ago, before there was even a lot of time slots for it at some of our conventions and meetings. But you've always been very keyed into that. When you realized what was going on, because whatever news we read, we both are pretty savvy about staying on top of what's happening. When you saw what was coming your way, how did your studio shift and pivot to try to maximize earning potential and be prepared for the time you did have to stay in place?
Well, I guess thankfully, being here in Oklahoma and where we were a little bit behind the corona curve. And so other areas were getting shut down prior to us. And when our numbers started climbing here in Oklahoma, I could see, the writing on the wall and knew it's like, we're probably coming for a shutdown as well. So being proactive, one of the things that we did is we got on the phone and called every session on our books for a month ahead. And we said, hey, we are probably going to get shut down. Do you want to come in early? And we had several opt for yes. So in the week and a half prior to being shut down, I had 10 sessions that we shot. And I didn't do any sales that week. All I did was I was trying to fit everybody in that I could shoot. And then sure enough, we got shut down, all non-essential business here in Oklahoma. We got shut down. And then, I went ahead and my staff was furloughed, because we didn't have a whole lot to do. But for the most part, I still came to work every day and not seeing anybody. And I went ahead and I proofed and got all of my sessions ready. And then I scheduled Zoom Pro Select sales sessions with them over Zoom with my clients. And it was amazing. In fact, my sales actually were better than I thought they would be. Now, this is not the first time I've used Zoom for sales. If I do out of town families, we got a family that part is from Tulsa, part is from Fayetteville, part is from Dallas, we'll shoot them and then we'll do remote sales via Zoom. So I've done it many times before, but not really in this capacity as a necessity for everything that we do.
Sure.
So, I pretty much went through my exact same sales routine as I do in the studio, but I did it via just over Zoom, and my sales were amazing. So I ended up and I did over $20,000 in sales last month while we were closed. Right. So this morning, I just shared a picture this morning that I had 21 prints that I had to sign 12 by 18 and up from American Color Imaging this morning. That all of the stuff that I sold, I went ahead and worked on and sent in, and they reopened on Monday. And so now they're getting all of my work done that was sitting in queue. And so now I'm getting ready to deliver all of these. So So, I tried to make the best of it. So a couple of things I want to point out about this. I'm very, very much with my products. I'm very hands-on. I'm always joking that, I like the customers to fondle the merchandise. So when they're in the sales room, I will take an album and I will physically, put it in their hands. Okay.
Yes.
And say,
Yes.
here. And, that they feel, because if I quote someone, $1,200, $1,500 for an album, I don't want them thinking it's one of the little thin Shutterfly press printed books or anything like that. I put one of these big, heavy Ravelli albums in their hands, something they could bludgeon someone to death with, and they understand why the cost is what it is.
That. And we're not recommending that, right? We're not recommending any violence, no violence.
Yeah. If you're going to bludgeon someone, don't get the rounded corners, get the square corners. They do more damage. Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, not having that ability, and I have small prints, like I have a small metal print. And whenever I talk about metals, I grab the print, I tap on it, and I put it in their hands. You can have an unmounted canvas if you want to talk about canvas, and again, put it in their hands. Touch and feel, I believe, is an important element. Now, knowing that I wouldn't have those things doing remote sales, I made certain at the end of my photo shoot, before we closed, I brought them into the sales room and I went through and I put the albums in their hand at that point, and I showed them everything. So this is what we'll be looking at whenever we order, and I want you to be able to see them now. And I think that is a very, very important step, so that they could see that, explain our different finishes of wall art and see the albums and the different sizes of albums and things like that. So I think that was one really key ingredient. The second very strong ingredient is that I had to have room view. If I do remote sales, even with families out of town or anything like that, I must do a room view. Now, I actually use a sticker. It looks like a bumper sticker that I print on. It's like wall cling material, and I have them stick it on their wall and take a photograph. And so to do a remote sale, whether it's right now during COVID or anytime else, I will not do the sale without a room view.
And that's something that you're using in ProSelect, right? You're using the ProSelect room view. Right.
Exactly.
If they don't have ProSelect, though, there's other ways they could do this, getting the images.
Yes, and there are other sales systems. There's InView and Fundy, and most of your better sales systems now are going to be offering a room view type of feature. So it doesn't have to be just ProSelect; it can be any of those types. So. And I'll be more than glad to show one here in just a second and give people an idea of what it looks like. So anyway. So I did, the reason for that is when they're in the studio, they can actually see the sizes and everything like that on the wall, and they understand, what does this particular size actually look like? And, and that's very powerful. Well, whenever they're viewing their portraits on a laptop in their home, they have no concept of size. Right. What does a 20 by 30 look like? They have no clue.
It sounds huge, right? It sounds so big, but when they see it on the wall, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's too small," or whatever.
Oh, right. And I get the people too. They come in, they come in for a family portrait, and they're like, "Yeah, we're wanting a big old picture to put over the fireplace. We're thinking 11 by 14. Can you print that big?"
Yes, we all been there. Yeah, we all.
Like, okay. So whenever they can see it, they realize how incredibly stupid that will look. And so room view is an essential element for me. And so since they're looking at it small, having their own room is having their own room in the view is incredibly important, because then they can really, really see and judge and estimate size. One of the things that I'm constantly telling people is that, a portrait needs to fit its space. And I'll tell them, if you get something too large for its space, it's going to look really bad. And they will nod and agree. And then I immediately back that with, and if you get something too small, it's going to look really bad. And so I really stress that the portrait needs to fit its space or portrait grouping. So that's an important element as well. And so anyway, we make sure that we have that room view, and we go through the exact same sales process. Tends to be a tiny bit slower because, you know, there's a little lag and you know, people asking questions and things like that. But it works just as well doing it remotely as we did in the studio. So I was very, very happy. I had 3 sales in the 2000s. I had 1 sale that was about 4,600, and this was all done over Zoom on the laptop. So I was, you know, absolutely trying to make the best of what it is. Like you said, I'm pretty fiscally responsible, and I'm also, I don't sit still very well. I mean, there's no way I could go home and sit on my butt for a month, and nor did I want 0 income for a month either. So, you know, so it was great to, you know, to have brought in the money we did. It was less than normal, but it was still way better than bringing in nothing. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that. And so let's just recap real quick. So I think some of the reasons, well, obviously you have a very nailed down sales system, but you had to pivot, and you had to do these online, and then when we're saying online, he's still doing in-person selling. He's just using modern technology to do it because that's what you had to do because of COVID. But the important piece go ahead.
Well, okay. I actually coined a new term for this because in-person sales is what I believe in, but we're not in. So I started calling it out-person sales.
Okay. I like that. And that kind of flows into your whole thing. Okay. I see what you did there, Gary Box.
Yeah. Yeah. Out-person sales.
But you made sure that they held and touched and saw the products. You went over the products at the session, instead of, you know, when you would do it normally during the sales session, and you may talk about them at the session still, but and then you were requiring those room views so you could talk about installing in the space if it's their home, and you were still guiding them through the whole sales process, just like you would if you were in person, even out person.
Absolutely.
You were still guiding them. We have a couple questions I don't want to miss. So first question was, would love to know Gary's recommendations for how to show products now if we have to do it online, conference, etc. I used to hand them the products as well. So you said you showed it to them at the actual photography session. What if you're a photographer, you work on location, you don't have, you know, how do you recommend this? Because I thought about this too, because I'm such a big believer like you that touching those 5 senses and the whole idea of putting something in somebody's hands, that's 75% of the way than buying it. In my opinion, holding the frame, holding the album. Would you ever come up with like a gift box, or not a gift box, but something that went home with them that had maybe leather samples or had something, a canvas sample in it, that while you're going through the sales process, they would be able to refer to, or would that be too clunky or?
Possibly, but you know, the problem is if you do very much volume of business, then you have to have, you know,
a lot.
15 of these kits of products, and that makes it a little bit tough. So, you know, I know a lot of people don't have the studio environment and they work on location and everything like that, which is fine. What I would do in that situation is I would go do an outside session and I would take the product with me, you know, in the back of my SUV or something like that. And at the end of the photo shoot, I would then go through and show them, this is what we have, you know, these are your options, and let them get that sensory, that sensory connection with the products at that particular point. So that's how I would go about addressing that. You know, I think it's a cool idea to be able to send it home with them. Just, you know, the volume of work that I do, I'd have to have so many of those kits that it would be a little on the cumbersome side to do so.
Yeah, I get that. And we're thinking about different things because, you know, something that we thought about, Gary, and I'll run this by you, and that this isn't my show, but I'm going to run it by you anyway. You know, this kind of we did a lot of the online selling as well, because we kind of saw the need, and we had sessions on the books and got them photographed, and then also had some sales that we couldn't have them come in and do. But doing the virtual piece, I thought it was going to affect my averages. It didn't. I mean, my averages were on target, or even a little bit higher than I expected in some cases. And I almost feel like the stress of somebody in our studio, they come in for an in-person consultation, they come in for the session, then they come in for the sale. Doing the consultation and the selling online I've had my clients go, oh, this was so much easier. It was so nice not to have to rush. It was so nice not to this or that. And they were all together and we could look at things. And I don't know. I just felt like it was just made our clients' life so much easier to do that. Will you consider doing that going forward, or will you go back to in-person selling?
I'm not sure. I'm probably way more receptive to it now. And I did see exactly the same thing. My averages were right on. And I honestly thought they would be, that I would take a drop of 25%. And I didn't. They were right on target from what I normally do. So I was very, very pleased about that. But, it definitely is convenient. And there's a lot to be said for making the business and the process easier on your client.
Right.
And, how much easier is it, when you don't even have to put pants on to order your portraits, Right. So, yeah. So, I don't know, but I would not completely rule it out like I might have before this happened.
Agree.
So,
I agree 100%.
I might be more inclined to, a lot of my seniors come from a pretty good distance. Honestly, It shocks me. Yeah. My furthest senior this year, I think it was about a 6-hour drive. So, which just blows my mind.
Wow. Yeah.
But those are rare, but it is common, for them to come an hour or so. Mm-hmm. And so I'm definitely leaning towards, if you're an hour away, I have two choices. I can wait until you come back, which could be 2-3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the longer we wait, the lower the order gets.
Exactly.
So I want them back in fast. My normal turnaround, if I shoot your session on Tuesday, I proof it on Wednesday and you're ordering on Thursday.
Right. Exactly.
I don't mess around. Yeah. And so I really feel that in the case of someone who's at a distance, if I could do it remotely and do it faster, I think it would actually be beneficial and more beneficial than to wait 3 weeks before you get a chance to come back to town. And so I can definitely see that change coming. So I think that would be a really positive move there. If they're local and if they're close, I would still rather do it in person and get that interaction and product, product connection. So that's kind of what I call that when they're touching and feeling the product is they're getting connected to the product. So.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I think that's important.
And, it depends on where you are. If you're in a larger city or a place where traffic's really bad and they're rushing around and kids and all, I could see. I guess it just depends on the client. I mean, but I love it. I would have said the same thing. Oh, wow, it's going to be awful. And I was pleasantly surprised that I was absolutely wrong. We didn't hit any. We hit our averages, or even, like I said, even better. Another question for you is, somebody asked, where does Gary get his mailing lists from for mailings? Do you use mail lists for mailings?
I do. And that's one of the things that I had planned on touching today is in marketing. I don't believe in putting all my eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. Okay. I hear a lot of people, say it's like, oh, I only use social media. Well, and how many do you do? They're usually pretty low volume. And, it's like, oh yeah, well, if I only wanted, 30 or 35 seniors a year, I'm sure I could pull those off of social media alone. But, I want more than that. And social media is not adequate. And so I do for my seniors, I do social media, a little bit. Honestly, I hate social media. I'm a rebel. I do senior models. I do direct mail. I have my website and stuff like that. And honestly, direct mail is one of my biggest draws and one of my most effective things. And a lot of people think, huh, really? And I hear so many people say, oh, direct mail doesn't work anymore. Yes, it does. The problem is you're probably trying to use direct mail like you did in 2002. Right. You're mailing out a 5x7 postcard with a 1-day sale and expecting your phone to ring off the wall. And that's just not going to happen. So, what we mail out is a beautiful high-end catalog. And the nice thing about it is when they get this catalog in the mail, I've had them bring it in and I've had moms say, it's like, yeah, we knew it wasn't going to be cheap when we got this. And I'm like,
Right.
good, that's exactly what I wanted you to know.
Right.
So one of the things that I talk about is my direct mail piece is not only an advertising marketing piece, it's also a filter. Okay. If you get one of these in the mail and you've got a $500 budget for senior pictures, you're going to go, yeah, well, we're not going to be able to afford to go here. Good.
Do you put your prices?
I'm not looking for.
Do you put your
What's
prices?
that?
Do you put your prices in your lookbook or in your catalog? Do you put your
I
pricing
put
in
my
there?
session prices in it.
Okay, that's good to know.
And I typically, will mention starting at prices, but I don't go into detail on it.
Got it.
So, I'll put that, wall art starts at $329, and make a couple of little comments like that. Again, to filter out those who are, looking for something incredibly cheap. So, so it works as a filter as well. So now back to where do I get my mailing list? Any way I possibly can. So I do a lot for some of the local schools. I photograph sporting events and stuff like that. Football games, they're out there with their Canon Rebel and the kit lens trying to shoot football action shots. And I'm out there with a Canon 1DX2 and a 300-2.8. And I think I'm probably going to be able to get a little bit better. And so I give them a lot of shots of some of those events and everything like that. So they really, really appreciate what I do for them. And a couple of schools actually give me mailing lists. And I don't think that they're giving them to anybody else. They're just giving them to me because of how much I support them. So I get a couple of schools, I get that. Second way I get mailing lists is through my senior models, especially private schools. Many of them have a student directory. And I will tell my senior models, it's like, hey, I will rent your student directory from you for $100. And they will bring me in their student directory. I will hand them $100 bill and I will put the thing on my copier and I will run copies of it. Yeah. And now if I do that, I'm usually getting seniors, juniors, sophomores. So I have at least 3 years coming out of that.
Right.
The third way, I do a number of like pom squads and cheer teams and things like that. And I realized a long time ago that on their order forms, I'm getting their name, their address, and all this information, but I don't know what grade they're in. So on the order form, just simple as class of blank.
Right.
And they say class of 2020. So I can go through and I can enter all those into my database. I use Spectra as a database for years, and I will enter all those in according to the year and the school that they're in. So I already have names in my database through 2024. Right. So now, so that's the second way. The third way is I will buy a mailing list from a list broker. I map out certain schools that I want to target and what zip codes they cover. And I will order a mailing list of this zip code, this zip code, this zip code with a combined household income starting at this level and going up. So I'll buy my mailing list. And I hear a lot of photographers, will say, oh, I bought a mailing list and it was 50%, inaccurate. And I'm like, it was 50% more names than I had to start with. Okay. Right. So, shut up and stop whining. I raised 5 kids. I've had enough whining, so yeah, don't whine to me. You will get no sympathy whatsoever. So anyway, that's how I get my list by hook or by crook, whatever it takes. 220, 221, whatever it takes.
No, I'm with you. Do you recommend a certain company that you use? I mean, I know, I know Marathon Press offers lists, but there's student mailing lists. I mean, there's all kinds. You just have to look it up and see which one you feel comfortable with.
The company that I used to use was NDM, and they went out a couple of years ago, and they were actually bought up by ASL. And so I've used them the past couple of years, and they're okay. None of them are real super accurate. But again, if I get 50%, that's more names than I had to start with. So I'll take that.
Yeah. If you do purchase a mailing list, do you recommend I usually will send like a cheater piece, like a kind of a less expensive or a less investment piece to weed out the list first, and then use that. You know what I'm saying? Like take all the returns out before I send my more expensive piece. Do you do that?
You certainly can. I honestly, I typically don't, because to be able to do that, you have to pretty much send them out first class.
Right.
To be able to get, those returns. And it's usually, it's one of those things that's like, it's just not almost worth the effort for it. It would save me some printing costs. Yes. But I don't think it'd be enough to justify my efforts. So.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, do you take payment plans or allow clients to make payments on their orders?
Yes. So I have the easy payment plan, which is one payment, one time. It's the easiest. I have the daddy don't know payment plan. That's where you pay part in cash, part in check, and part in credit card. So he'll never figure it out.
Yeah, there you go.
So my normal operation is, I believe in spreading the money out and the old concept of money spent is money forgotten. Mm-hmm. So they pay for their photo shoot to schedule it on the books. They'll have a minimum order tied to each photo shoot. The day of their photo shoot, they actually pay half of that minimum order as a deposit that will apply towards their order. Mm-hmm. Then whenever they come back in, if they come, so they have a $500 deposit the day of their photo shoot. When they come back in, if they order $2,500, I take off the $500 deposit, and it's half down, $1,000 today, and then half whenever it comes in later. We offer them incentive and bonuses to pay for all of it up front. And I tell people that, if I need to split that $2,000 into 4 payments instead of 2, I will. And I tell people, it's like, I would rather wait to get paid and let you get what you really want.
Right.
Which, you can also look at it the other time is, I would rather wait to get paid, but get paid more.
Right.
So, but I have a pretty good percentage of people will do them, will prepay the entire amount in full. One of the biggest benefits of prepaying your account is, I'm not a virtual or a digital photographer. I don't sell files. Okay. Except for commercial headshots. I am absolutely anti, here are your files, go print them yourself.
Right.
Hell has to freeze over before I let Walgreens print my work.
Okay.
So, but I'm not anti-digital files. We all want pictures on our phone of our kids and family and everybody else. So they basically get every image that they order a print of, they get a low-res branded digital file of as well. Okay. Which with high school seniors, that's the main thing they want, are the digitals. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. If you leave a balance, if you do the 1,000 today and 1,000 when it comes in, you don't get your digitals until you pay off your 1,000 and you get your physical prints first.
Right.
If you prepay for everything today, I have a couple of little bonuses that I give them, but the biggest thing is, if you prepay today, as soon as all your retouching is done and it's submitted to the lab, you get your digitals then. So in other words, you get your digitals in 1 week instead of 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
And they're like, oh, can we do that? And that's the big thing right there. So you want to talk about incentive? There is your incentive to make them prepay for all of it. But if they don't have the budget and they need to break it up, I'm not opposed to that at all.
Right. And it's smart of you not to release it, because once you release those digitals, I mean,
yeah. If I gave them the digitals before it was paid off, I'd never see the rest.
Yeah. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You're not putting that back in there. Somebody said that they also use ProSelect and would love to know more about that bumper sticker type cleaner that you use. Do you have that? And where do you get that printed?
I actually print them myself. Okay. I have a large Canon printer, and I print it on a material from LexJet that's called Phototex. And it's just like your wall cling material from your lab. You peel it, you stick it on the wall, it peels off, it won't hurt wallpaper or anything like that. And it's, so I buy the stuff on a 24-inch roll, and I print 24 by 48 at a time, and I cut them. They're actually 4 inches by 12 inches. I'm going to flip to ProSelect on my view and share my screen here.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. While you're doing that, what size do you make your low resolution files? Somebody asked while you're switching over.
Oh, I have an Action that does it. I think they're 1,200 pixels long on the long side. Yeah. And so I think that's it. And it has my logo on it, but not huge and obnoxious. Right. So, okay. My ProSelect was minimized and it wouldn't let me select it. So, okay. So this is an actual client order here. And so this is what my sticker looks like on their wall. It's 4 inches by 12 inches. So whenever I bring this into ProSelect, I can just tell ProSelect, this is 12 inches. So it can size things correctly whenever it comes in. I tell them to try to include floor and ceiling in their image. And this is what we get. Now, I made it a blue because nobody's walls are this color. I have people say, I've heard people say, oh, just tape a sheet of paper up to your wall. That works really well on a white wall. You can't really see it a lot of times, okay? So I made it a color that's going to stand out on almost any wall that they put it on. And it actually has like a little ruler across the top that makes it, look like a ruler, but that doesn't really matter. So now whenever I have this in room view, I come in, and I'm not going to go through the mechanics with ProSelect because if you use a different program, it'd be different. But basically, I tell ProSelect, this is 12 inches. So whenever I take an image and I drag it in, it's actually going to come in. Well, that one didn't come in because that's actually one she ordered. Hang on. Let me get an image she didn't order. Okay, it's going to come in as a 30 by 40, which is typically going to be too large for a senior. And now I start hitting my down button and downsizing it until it looks good. And mom's like, oh, that looks really good. What size is that? Is that like a 16 by 20? No, that's a 20 by 30.
Right.
Okay. Right. I do a whole lot of groupings. I know that some of the people out there might know the name Bill Sorensen.
Yes.
Bill was a sales god in our industry and an amazing, amazing man. So several years ago, I hired Bill one-on-one to come to my studio. That was not an inexpensive investment, but it was worth every penny. So one of the things that Bill told me is, he's like, stop trying to sell everybody a big picture. Sell them 3 smaller ones. It takes up the same amount of wall space. It's far easier to sell, and it actually sells for more. Now, if you'd have told me at that point how many I would be selling, I would have told you, Mary, you are nuts. Okay. And because it blows my own mind. 50% of my seniors, actually slightly over 50% of my seniors, do not buy 1 wall portrait, they buy 3.
Right. Right.
And in fact, if I go here with this young lady, let me go back to, this is what they actually ordered right here. This is the spot. This is right here. I've got a 16 by 24 and 2 12 by 18s. And the picture that I shared of the 21 prints I had to sign this morning, these pictures are in it. So a 16 by 24 and 2 12 by 18s hanging on their wall. And this is their home, their portraits, their wall. This is real. This isn't made up. So, about 50% of my seniors, or just over 50%, buy 3 wall portraits instead. It's so much easier to sell.
I agree 100% because they get this mind block of 30 inches. Oh, wow. No, I don't want myself that big, or we don't need, but for some reason they will buy 3, 20-inch portraits or whatever. Yeah. It just sounds so they don't, I don't understand it either, but I agree with you 100%. It's absolutely.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Now, I ask photographers all the time, if someone were willing to buy 3 wall portraits, would you maybe cut them a break on price to as an incentive? And most say, yeah, of course. So on all my wall portraits, if you buy 2, you get a 10% discount. If you buy 3, 15. If you buy 4 or more, 20%. And obviously that is built into my pricing. So before I started that, it's like, oh, I'm going to give people a 15% discount. So I need to increase my prices by 17%. And it works out, to be exactly the same. So that's built into my pricing, and it works wonderfully. So that is incentive for them to, if they're like, oh, I don't know, how much is that? I'm like, oh, well, you get a discount. Oh, okay. And so it's a whole lot easier to sell that way. Yep. So power.
Yeah, so that's cool.
I really believe you can steer so much client behavior with pricing. Okay. It's like the carrot dangling in front of the donkey. He will walk all day long trying to get to that carrot, even though he never actually gets there. So I use a lot of pricing and incentives to get people to go. And my pricing is all set up too, where, the more they buy, the better the price is going to get. If you just want to come in and you just want to buy, 1 or 2 prints,
Okay.
you're going to pay for them,
Right.
because I got to make my money somehow. But if you're going to buy 20 prints, I don't have to make nearly as much per print. So all of my pricing is set up that way. The more you buy, the better the price gets.
I like it. Somebody asked Gary, why do you ask for them to include the floor and the ceiling in that shot? And I think
that's a great question. Because if they were to just take, let me go back to this other image. Okay. So if they just stuck the sticker on the wall, you'd be surprised, but sometimes they'll take a close-up of this big and they lose all sense of scale if they just take a picture of the sticker on the wall without like getting the whole area going. So I want them to include the wall and the ceiling if they can. Sometimes if it's in a smaller space, they might not be able to get all that, but I want as much in as I can so they can really understand the concept of space. Because if they just zoom in on that sticker and blank wall, they lose the concept of the space and the proportions and everything like that.
There we go. I agree. Hey, somebody asked this question. This is a good one. So if you are in a place like I think they're saying the UK or Europe, they're not allowed, mailing lists are not allowed. What would you recommend? I think you made some other great recommendations, but if you're not in a space where you can purchase these lists, would you recommend things like model programs and using your sports and other things to garner and curate that list? Is that how you would try to go
absolutely.
about it?
I gave 4 examples and 3 of them are viable anywhere. You can still buy a mailing list from list brokers. They got that everywhere. You might not be able to get them from the schools, especially if you don't service the schools like I do. There's no way you're going to get those. But all of the other 3 by you can do signups. If you have a mall display, you can put in a little, hey, send me more information, and you can put some type of slight offer on it to entice them, and you can gather that information and send them out. You can have your senior models, as part of their model program, they are required to give you the names and address of 10 of their friends. There's endless ways to get this information out there.
Yeah. Another thing I recommend is what Jonathan Ryle talks about with the Business Success Academy. If you create a funnel, I know some people that I'm working with, here that have a funnel that's how they're collecting, and they're targeting it towards those the high school kids, and they're getting, just like Gary said, what year they are. So then they go into the 2021, 22, 23, 24 folder. So they have that information when it's time to market to them. So you could also, that would be another thing I'd add, is creating a funnel to get that, to get that information online.
Absolutely. And some of the things that you can use for that funnel is, you could create a clothing or style guide for your seniors, or, the top 5 makeup tips for senior photography. And, it's like, hey, we'll send you this, just, give me your information and go for it, so that's perfect click funnel right there,
right there. So that transitional call to action, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's so many ways to get that information. You have to be proactive. The information isn't going to fall in your lap. Get out of your chair and do something and make it happen.
Yeah, it takes a little extra creativity and everything. But, Gary, as you guys Oklahoma is already out of their stay in place. Virginia, supposedly today is our day that we're coming out of this. As we move forward, what will you do differently, if anything, in your business moving out of this pandemic, which I can't imagine you've ever experienced before? I know I haven't here. And we've all had crisis and different things, but this has been very interesting, to say the least.
Absolutely.
But what will you take from this? What will you do differently, if anything? Maybe you won't do anything. I don't know. But
I'm going to, one of the things that concerns me a little bit is, a lot of people have taken a financial hit, and, portraits, especially higher end portraits, are a luxury. You don't have to have, high-end senior portraits, oh my God, you can go to the Shoot and Burner or something like that. That's a whole lot cheaper. So, one of the things that I'm working on right now is I'm going to have to step up my whole marketing for this year. That I had been in a slowdown mode of, trying to cut my volume back. my income needs are not what they used to be. I'm getting older. I don't want to work that hard. So the past few years, I've actually been scaling back my marketing and trying to slow down, trying to get higher dollar and fewer heads. You know, my peak year, I did 563 seniors, 42 weddings, 567 seniors, 42 weddings, and about 500 other jobs.
Ooh.
And, you know, I got no interest in that anymore. So
right
now I want 100 seniors a year at a $3,000 average. And that's going to give me 300 grand for my senior business. And that's where I want to be. So I have been cutting back my marketing to, you know, to be there. If I was marketing, you know, full bore, you know, I don't want that many. So, but because of the decline, you know, I'm really convinced it's like, you know, I probably need to step up marketing a little bit harder this year and make them want it just a little bit more, and to make them, you know, put them over that edge into going for a premium quality and do that. So, you know, for me personally, I mentioned earlier, I'm not a big social media fan. In fact, I despise Instagram. Okay.
Right.
But what probably the biggest change I will be making this year is I'm going to have to suck it up and I'm going to have to start Instagramming. Okay. You know, to get to where I want to be. I think that that's a marketing segment that I have not been fully utilizing at all, not even close. And so that's probably one of my biggest fans. In fact, I just hired a new high school girl as an intern, and I'm just going to turn over most of the Instagramming to her and say, here's my password, go for it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's probably the most significant change that I'll make this year.
Yeah. Have you done anything with TikTok? Because it's such a big thing with seniors, with that age group.
You know, I haven't. I haven't figured out a way how to utilize it yet. You know, and I'm all ears if someone's got a way of, you know, of utilizing it. So, you know, it could be, you know, one possibility I have thought about it is, you know, we could TikTok like every senior when they're picking up their order.
Yeah. Something else I thought, and I actually heard a story, I think it was just this morning on like one of the news shows, that, I try not to watch, but it was interesting. It was talking about kind of like our age trying to what to do with TikTok, but predominantly small business owners, and doing information type things, because evidently there's a major trend on TikTok besides all the funny, crazy, you know, stuff that kids are doing, information like how to do this, how to do that. So I didn't know if TikTok would be good for, I like the picking up idea. That's a good idea. But how to make the most of your senior portrait session, what not to forget, how to do your makeup. And I understand you would have to incorporate some of your seniors to help with that. But I think there might be an avenue for it. I don't know enough about it either. I've been talking to my kids trying to figure it out because I've rejected it. But one word of advice was to make sure you get your TikTok handle before it goes away.
Right.
So if nothing else, download it and get the handle and make sure you own it, not somebody else.
So I don't have to be dancing?
Evidently you do not have to dance or sing, which was my fear.
Yeah, I thought it was strictly dancing and singing. I mean, so
and doing dumb things like going to the refrigerator or doing that. I don't know.
I'm really bad at both. So,
well, they will tell you differently at is it Johnny Fox's? I think that's where it was, right? That where you have your or certificate. Somebody asked, "Are you shooting differently, using a different lens, doing anything differently to be more social distance? Are you doing anything differently?"
Nah. Yeah, I'm not. You know, I'm trying to. I'm pretty hands-on in shooting, fixing hair and everything like that. You know, being a guy, we have to be a little bit on the careful side. So I always start every session, especially with like a high school girl, and I'm like, okay, here's the rules. Rule number one, you have to have fun because I'm going to have fun. If you're not having fun, we're going to be out of balance. Two, I'm really, really picky. Hair, wrinkles, and clothing. If it doesn't look good, don't worry about it. I'm going to fix it. And then I immediately follow that. But if it might get me smacked, I'm going to make your mama fix it because I don't like to get hit. Okay. And so And they laugh. They know exactly what I mean, and I never violate that. So so anyway, I will. Normally I work on hair and stuff like that, and so I'm trying to do a little bit less of that. My intern can help with a few of those things, but then she's hands on instead of me hands on. But I tend to, like, if I work with my hair, I've got like one of the a rat tail pick comb that I'll use, so that I'm still getting within 6 feet, but I'm not touching hair as much and things like that. So, so I'm trying to be reasonable. I had a newborn last week, and even though I feel fine, I take my temperature every day. With the newborn, I did wear a mask. I did wear gloves. I Lysol wiped everything. I bet I Lysol wiped my camera down 10 times during my session. Right. I Lysol wiped my face down. Okay, because my face would touch my camera would touch my nitrile gloves, and I didn't hold the baby, but those times I had to move in position, and so I tried to keep it as sterile as I could for a newborn's sake. So
yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. And and I think we just all have to be smarter. I agree with you. I don't think we're going to do things much differently, but we just we would. I think, and you probably are the same way. If we didn't feel well, we would reschedule our appointments. I mean, if I didn't feel well, I thought, I would probably think even more now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean? Like, okay. You just, and hopefully they'll do the same for us, right? They'll not come if you're sick, or
right.
How that goes,
And, we've advised, clients that, if you're immune compromised or anything like that, if you can put it off, please do. But, here's a reality. This virus is not going to go away.
Nope.
I mean, you can't hide out for 6 weeks and then it'd be gone.
No.
It's gonna be here, and until we have a vaccine, or until most of the people have it, it's something we're gonna have to live with. I, for one, cannot afford to live in a cave for the next 6 months to 18 months and wait for it to go away. It's just it's a risk that we will have to take in business. It's a risk that we have to take in life. We can do all we can to mitigate that risk. When it first came on, all the social distancing and everything, it was very imperative that we keep the curve within our healthcare system's ability to treat people. That's where we really get dangerous. If we have more people that need ventilators than we have hospital beds, we're in real trouble. But as long as we're within our healthcare system's ability to treat people, it's just something we have to live with.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So
I agree.
Anyway.
No, I agree with you.
All right.
And I think
any other questions?
Do you pay your interns?
I do. Yep.
So yes, Mark, Gary pays his interns. Did I miss any questions, Ronan? Let's see. Ronan will tell me if I missed any. I tried to actually keep up with everybody.
I have them turned on, but I've not been watching them.
I don't think you have missed any questions. I think it's so we can give it a call out for questions if anyone has any questions. Let me just give my feedback on what I've learned. Loads again. Every time I saw Gary at Sync, and I had a notebook full, and now I have a notebook full again. But so the first thing I learned was, you've got to educate your client all the way along. So your virtual sessions were easier, Gary, because at the shoot you were educating with the products that are available. The second thing I learned was convenience. Think about how you can make it convenient for your client to buy. Gary does a great piece. Can I share the piece you do, Gary? So Gary does a great piece when he's on stage. You never get to see him. He invites somebody on stage.
Wait, no, don't share that.
Okay.
I won't share. Yeah, don't share that, because it'll spoil it if they see me. You have to come see my sales program to find out. So yeah, if you share that, it would spoil it.
Okay, so what you need to do is you need to go see Gary and see his sales just to get the message as to how you can. We'll give you a little hint how you act and what you do with your client all the way along, and educating them, and how you can actually make them want to buy what you do. So that's the hint I'll give. Right. The marketing mix then. So he talked about the importance of the marketing mix. So we're 3 marketeers here. If you do one thing, you'll get 1x. If you do 2 things, you won't get 2x, you'll get 4x. If you do 3 things, you won't get 3x, you'll get 9x. Yeah. So it's the marketing multiplier. So make sure that in all of your marketing that you have that marketing mix in there. And the second thing that I heard, and we teach this in 101 marketing, but most companies don't do it. Normally, when we enter a recession, the first thing that gets cut is the marketing budget. That's when you actually need to spend more money and more time on your marketing. So that's what I learned, and that's what I heard today, as well as all the other good things, including the room view. Room view is really, really good because it gives people perspective. People have no idea what a 30 by 40 is, but using the room view and ProSelect's a wonderful tool. I know Mary uses it, Gary uses it, and most of the top photographers do. It's a wonderful tool to be able to give your client a perspective of what it looks like on the wall.
Absolutely.
So that's what I learned, guys.
Well, one of the things that I always point out is I have not developed a whole string of secrets. There's so many things in our industry that we have heard for years and years. If you want to sell big, you have to show big. You have to show it to sell it. All of these little things that, that I have heard for 30 some years, I didn't make these up. The difference is I actually do them, and I'll be darned, they actually work. But they only work if you do them. They will not work if you do not do them. So, I believe, I talked about the concept of selling the trios. Okay, so right here behind me, I have 3 12 by 18s, a 30 by 40, and 2 16 by 24s. I have a 16 by 24 and 2 12 by 18s. I'm in my sales room. So I'm showing all of this stuff as I go. I have, I think 14 groupings of 3 hanging in my studio. So it's my target. It's my goal to sell is I want to sell those 3 right there. I also do, and one other thing, I know we're just almost out of time here. Let me find something real quick. I have on my keynote. I have a keynote, but I didn't show all of it, but I do want to show one thing here. Okay, so let me get and share this real quickly. In all of my marketing and advertising, one last thing that I do want to share, if I can get this up here. Okay, there we go. Is this. This is a page out of my senior price list right here. I use stock rooms and I put portraits on the wall like this in all of my pricing and marketing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm selling this concept of this is what I do, it helps build desire for it. And, and I think that's a lot of why people don't call me wanting just a USB drive of images, because everything that I do is all about this. It's beautiful wall presentation, amazing albums and things like that. So I illustrate all of that in my marketing. There are pictures like that in what I mail out to people, and that's what I am. That's what I do. That's what I'm about. And if you just want a USB drive, don't call me. Don't waste my time. That's not what I do. I'm not that kind of photographer.
Yeah, you're showing exactly what you want to sell. And we have to do that because we can look at beautiful images. I say this all the time, and I know you do too, on our phone all day long. When you're just showing beautiful images, that's what they are coming for, is that. Yep. When you're showing it framed and presented and installed on a wall or above a fireplace or sofa or whatever, they're like, oh, all of a sudden they get it because they can see it. I love that. Gary, if these people want more Gary, which I can't imagine, but if they do,
God help you if you want more.
I want more, Gary. I know you have a great Facebook group. Do you have anywhere else that if people want more of your information?
I teach at Texas School. My class was sold out, I believe, before the change. I don't know if there's any openings because of that. Mm-hmm. But if you think you can handle an entire week with me, you can come play with me at Texas School, and I'll fill your brain kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. I have my Facebook group. It's probably the easiest way to connect with me. It's called Inside the Box Photo Group. And so that's a great way. You mentioned the phone, and another thing that I say is, pictures here are great for today. Pictures there are great for tomorrow.
Oh, I love that.
That's a great way to look at it. So, you know, I love helping and watching other photographers grow. So if you get a chance to, you know, to come study with me, you know, I had a few speaking gigs dropped because of all of this. And so I'm enjoying doing a few of these virtual ones instead. So Texas School, I think, is the next thing that's the next live thing that's actually on my slate to do. So
yeah, Texas School, texasschool.org, right? I think that's
yep, texasschool.org. If you've never been there, it's unbelievable. It will blow your mind.
It is great. It is great.
Yeah,
we'll be there as well.
And of course, Mary and Jamie teach there as well. I always enjoy seeing them while I'm there. And
passing in the hall, right? We just passed in the hall.
Yeah, many unbelievably talented artists and business people there.
Agree. You are amazing. Your heart is huge and you're very giving, and we can't thank you enough for being a part
thank
of
you
this.
guys.
Really and truly. You are amazing. Ronan, 3XM, you guys, this is just awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I love that your recap was perfect, and he even threw a little another one in there at the end, so you have to add a fourth one this time, Ronan, to show what you want to sell. That's a good one right there for us all to remember.
There you go. Awesome. Yep. So connect with me on Facebook if you guys have follow-up questions. Easiest way for me to find them is in my Facebook group, Inside the Box Photo Group. Now, there's a couple of other groups that are called Inside the Box that do like they stole my name, that do like the little wooden box with people in it, and they do a composite of that. So mine is Inside the Box Photo Group. It's not just inside the little wooden box squatting in things like that's not me. So
no, that's not Gary.
Okay. All right. I look forward to seeing you guys.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Ronan, Mary, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Love you guys.
Y'all. Love you too.
Thanks,
Y'all be
guys.
good.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.